Said more about this major marathon hearing that took place today with the CEO of TikTok. We want to talk about this even further with Politico reporter Rebecca Kern, and she was following this all day today. Rebecca, thanks so much for being with us here on Live Now from Fox. I wanted to get your thoughts, your reporting on this, because we saw from the CEO there that time and time again, he tried to convince lawmakers that the parent company, ByteDance, that owns TikTok, is not under the sway or the aegis of the Chinese Communist Party. Was he successful in convincing lawmakers of that?
I would say no. Unfortunately, a lot of lawmakers went into the hearing with pretty set views about TikTok and their connection with the Chinese government. That TikTok is owned by ByteDance, which is based in Beijing. And while Chew spent a lot of time repeatedly saying that TikTok is incorporated in the U.S., they have headquarters in LA, and that U.S. data is stored here. Lawmakers didn't seem fully convinced because their owner is based in Beijing.
There was also numerous times as well where he told lawmakers he would get back to them. He didn't have anything on that when they pressed him on, a number of different questions on a number of different topics, kind of in the same vein as other major tech giant CEOs like Zuckerberg, like Jack Dorsey. That was a similarity I noticed.
Yep. It's very similar.
Yeah.
When we go through these big tech CEO hearings, they're very careful. They don't, and the chairwoman, McMorris-Rodgers, repeatedly reminded him he is, he could be subject to perjury under oath here by testifying. So he had to be legally very careful with what he was saying. So that leads to a lot of vagueness in responses. And if some answer is not serving him well on the record in front of hundreds of people watching, he has the option of replying by writing, and some of that isn't always, you can get access, but it's not as publicly available, so
Sure.
May not be as indicting in that way.
Yeah. I wanted to ask too, because it seems like there was just a unanimous consensus on that committee, House Energy and Commerce, about banning the app outright. Was there any members on that committee dais today who are in favor of keeping TikTok an app open and free?
I think we have to be careful about who wants to fully ban it. We know McMorris-Rodgers did open saying outright ban. She supports. I talked to a lot of the members, Democrats and Republicans, ahead of the hearing. A lot of Democrats are still a little hesitant to say they support a full-on ban. They wanted to hear what Chew said today. I do think, though, where we saw unanimity is that something needs to be done about TikTok, and the Biden administration is looking into potentially a forced sale, a forced divestiture, and a sale to potentially a U.S. company, or a ban. So there is unanimous concern about user data and safety there. I did hear that, as you said, and that's not always typical on Capitol Hill to hear bipartisan support on something. There was a lot of bipartisan support for a federal privacy bill as well.
Yeah, it seems like that we're kind of seeing these two tracks at the same time. A lot of pieces of legislation, both on the House and the Senate side, that have been proposed about protecting data, about foreign companies who have something to do with American consumers, and then you also have this executive track as well, to what you were speaking to, about what will President Biden do? Will he force the sale? Will he force it to divest from ByteDance? So those are happening at the same time, right?
Yeah, they're simultaneously happening. This review by the administration actually has been underway starting under the Trump administration back in 2019, 2020, and this is under a committee on foreign investment in the U.S., CFIUS. It's composed of a lot of federal agencies and housed under the Treasury Department. So, Trump recommended a ban, if you recall, back in 2020, or a forced sale. A federal judge stopped that effort, saying it was illegal how he went about it. So what we have now is Biden trying again. But there's a bipartisan bill, as you referred to, in the Senate that could give the executive branch more authority that a judge said they didn't have before when Trump tried this. So that could be an option. We don't have a House version of that bill. We know both chambers are controlled by different parties. So that could also be an uphill battle. But as we saw today, there is bipartisan interest in addressing TikTok's handling of U.S. data. So maybe something could get through both chambers.
Rebecca, I want to put up the statement because TikTok's spokesperson put this out after the hearing wrapped up. They said Shou came prepared to answer questions from Congress, but unfortunately the day was dominated by political grandstanding that failed to acknowledge the real solutions already underway through Project Texas or productively address industry-wide issues of youth safety. Also not mentioned today by members of the committee, the livelihoods of the 5 million businesses on TikTok or the First Amendment implications of banning a platform loved by 150 million Americans. So it seems like that is their kind of lasting salvo, if you will, after this marathon hearing, to which, and I just want to read again the intro statement by the CEO. He says, ByteDance is not owned or controlled by the Chinese government. The bottom line is this: American data stored on American soil by an American company, overseen by American personnel. It seems like we're at some type of stalemate here. Did this hearing today, was it productive? Was it constructive? Where do we go from here?
I think it was productive in that we now know how both sides of the aisle feel. We knew for a long time Republicans were calling for a ban, and I heard pretty strong convictions from Democrats that they are at least concerned about user safety and don't fully trust TikTok with being honest that the Chinese government cannot access U.S. data. I heard it from both sides of the aisle, so that felt pretty new to me. And I also heard, renewed bipartisan support for a federal data privacy law, which the committee did pass last year. And I talked to a member after the committee, Representative Jan Schakowsky, who's a ranking member on a subcommittee that deals with data security, and she said that this gave them more momentum to move on their data privacy bill, and I think that could be an outcome of the hearing.
Okay, I just got to ask Rebecca, because with these hearings on Capitol Hill all the time, you hear the word grilled a lot, and it's kind of become overused to the point where it really doesn't mean anything. But you could make an argument that he really faced a grilling there. Were there any moments, any highlights where the back and forth between members there and the CEO really struck out to you?
I thought one line that TikTok's spokesperson sent an email about after. They were asking about, there has been reporting last year, ByteDance employees were surveilling U.S. journalists. And now last week we saw DOJ reporting that DOJ is now investigating ByteDance for surveilling journalists. So, a Republican member asked Chew about it, and he said, something along the lines like, I don't think spying is the right word that I would describe here. He was trying to backtrack it.
Okay.
It didn't seem convincing. I mean, clearly, and then we know ByteDance, those 4 employees were fired. So they were in the wrong there. He didn't do the best wording in responding. He did backstep some, but I mean, they did catch him there. And I do think it does validate, like I said, the bipartisan concerns about, access that the Chinese government could have. I mean, particularly at least ByteDance could be spying on journalists, it looks like.
All right. Rebecca Kern, we appreciate your insight, your reporting into this major story today. We'll talk again. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.